28th of July 2010. Airblue Flight 202 was preparing to fly a domestic route departing from Karachi to Islamabad in Pakistan. The A321-231 was carrying 146 passengers and 6 crew members. Captain of the Airbus, 61-year-old Pervez Chowdhury, had 25,497 hours of flying experience. The first officer had 1,837 hours of flying experience and just 386 hours in the A320. First officer, squadron leader Muntaj Ahmed, formerly flew F-16s for the Pakistan military. Please note that I've been unable to use authentic Airblue livery. 7:40 AM and Airblue Flight 202 departs for Islamabad. Contrary to Airbus's procedure, during the initial climb the captain tests the knowledge of the first officer. The captain uses a harsh tone and snobbish words. This lecture continues for about an hour with only brief intervals. The exact reason for this is unclear, but what is clear is that the process is designed to humiliate, degrade and belittle the first officer. Initially, I theorised that the captain's desire to berate and degrade the first officer may be down to envy, simple resentment over the fact that the first officer flew for Pakistan's military. However, as the events of Flight 212 unfold, it would seem clear that this kind of arrogance and even narcissistic behaviour was not confined exclusively to just the first officer. After being patronised and humiliated, the first officer remains mostly silent throughout the rest of the flight. This is most likely from a loss of self-esteem and a loss of confidence. 1 hour 25 minutes later, the pilots are now approaching Islamabad Airport. Air traffic control advised Flight 202 of poor weather and poor visibility. Due to the poor weather conditions, the captain decides to fly the final approach in nav mode. The captain checks the weather apprehensively and asks the first officer to feed 4 unauthorised waypoints into the FMS, the flight management system. So as the captain requested, 4 unauthorised waypoints in close proximity of Magala Hills are added in the FMS by the first officer. This is contrary to the procedures in Islamabad for a visual approach. The first officer does not challenge the captain for his incorrect actions. This is likely caused by the lecturing session earlier. So the pilots request a right-hand downwind approach. However, the control tower refuses despite both pilots asking. He insists on a left downwind. The captain repeats his request and is denied again. The captain has to turn the aircraft 45 degrees right, however misses due to poor visibility. The flight crew lower the gear and extend the flaps. The main task they have now is to spot the runway. The crew finally catches sight of runway 30, but is too late. The captain decides to fly a self-created RNAV waypoint-based approach. The aircraft deviates from protected airspace towards the Magala Hill area. The pilot activates the plan to fly the unauthorised waypoint. After breaking off from the ILS approach, the captain audaciously, arrogantly and recklessly ignores ATC suggestions. He responds by saying, "Let him say whatever he wants to say." The captain loses spatial orientation. The first officer, knowing that something's wrong, says, "Sir, are we visual?" The captain responds, "Yes, we are visual." The crew now attempt a left turn by rotating the heading selector to 300 degrees. However, because the crew forgets to pull the knob, the plane doesn't turn. Then,
Terrain.
selects heading 086.
Terrain.
Panic and confusion sets in.
Terrain.
The first officer says, "Sir, there are mountains ahead, pull up."
Terrain.
The first officer echoes the EGPWS. And then the captain snaps, "Do you not think I already know that?" The captain is clearly panicking and frustrated, asks why isn't it turning left. The tragic irony of this disaster is the captain had spent most of the flight lecturing, quizzing and berating the first officer. He ends the flight asking the first officer why his plane isn't turning, still unaware that he forgot to pull the heading switch. In the last few seconds, the captain disengages autopilot and takes manual control. He forgets to increase to maximum thrust or take off go around to perform a terrain escape. He also banks to the left